stories we grow up with as cautionary tales. Today's story features a number of places which are not only familiar to me, but ones I use on the daily, from the pubs down to the very bus stops that these girls were at. What's perhaps most frustrating of all is that there is no actual conclusion to this story. So, here we go. For women, simply existing and interacting with the world poses risks that do not exist for the majority of men. A recent survey carried out by The Conversation showcased that a staggering 32% of women don't feel safe when walking around alone at night. I know for me, hood up, cover your long hair, walk with purpose, and hold your keys between each finger is second nature, something I don't even stop and think about. It's a disappointing and eye-opening statistic that showcases the dangers of just existing as a female in the world. However, imagine if there was a pocket of land within your region that was notorious because women kept vanishing off the edge of the earth. It is in fact the case for me because in the east of Ireland, right where I grew up and lived, this area exists and is known as the Vanishing Triangle. The Vanishing Triangle was first given its name in the late 1990s after a series of high-profile missing persons reports were filed within a small portion of Ireland. The area that is the triangle covers roughly the full province of Leinster. You may be thinking that while it is tragic people do go missing rather often, this could be merely a coincidence. It's hard to make this argument when you look at the nature and connections of the missing persons reports. The individuals that went missing were all females within the ages ranging from their late teens to 40 years of age. According to Gardaí, that's the Irish police force, the cases all share very similar characteristics. During this time, there was never any substantial evidence or clues gathered to gain any understanding as to why these women disappeared without warning. However, it is speculated that there was a serial killer active in the east of Ireland during this time. Serial killers in the traditional sense are actually very, very, very rare in Ireland. The Troubles and the sectarian angle have of course been very good excuses for torture and murder among those with such inclinations, and it can be presumed that many of those with murderous tendencies have found themselves well concealed under this umbrella on either side. That goes some way to accounting for why we don't see many of these supposed random killings that we associate with serial killers in the commonly recognised sense. Based on the evidence that is present regarding Ireland's Vanishing Triangle, as it has become known, there is some anecdotal evidence that points to an undisclosed male being linked to this series of women. The first missing woman, Annie Bridget McCarick, was a 27-year-old American woman from Long Island, New York, who went missing under suspicious circumstances on March 26, 1993, while she was residing in Ireland. She left her apartment in Dublin so that she could go to the Wicklow Mountains for the day, a pretty standard weekend activity for those residing in Dublin. She had initially asked a friend if she wanted to join her, but her friend had other plans that day. Annie was captured on CCTV withdrawing money from her bank account at an ATM in Sandymount, Dublin. She did some shopping at Quinsworth, your only man for quality Irish food, before returning to her apartment at 3 p.m. She was next seen on a bus at about 3:40 in Ranelagh, heading in the direction of Enniskerry. What happens next has been disputed because, of course, eyewitness statements can be tricky to rely on. Between 8 and 10 p.m, the doorman at Johnny Fox's pub, easily one of, if not Ireland's most popular pub, claims to have seen McCarick accompanied by a young man who was wearing a wax jacket. The bouncer remembers the sighting as he had supposedly seen Annie and an unknown male trying to gain entry to the Irish music and dancing show that was going on. He said Annie did not realise that there was a cover charge and her male associate paid for her and accompanied her in to watch the show. She was supposedly seen again inside with the man who paid a barman for a private booth for them to share. Nobody saw them leave the pub and the man's identity has never been discovered. This sighting has been disputed over the years as it was dark and wet outside that night. It seems unlikely that McCarick would have walked all the way from Enniskerry to Glencullen where the pub was, as it was almost 4 miles away. It's possible that she may have hitchhiked, which was actually pretty common in Ireland before mobile phones brought the advent of taxi apps, as well as easily contacting people you know for a lift. However, Annie was not reported to have done any hitchhiking before, and as a non-resident she might not have opted to do it. For me, I'm thinking there's a first time for everything, and if she was bold enough to independently head up the mountains by herself, hitching a lift isn't that far-fetched. Unfortunately, this is all guesswork because we just don't know. Annie hasn't been heard from since. She was supposed to meet her friends for dinner the next day and didn't arrive at the scheduled time. This would snowball into a 6-month-long search that would sadly turn up empty of any leads. The most famous case of all the missing girls is that of trainee beautician Josephine Dullard, referred to more commonly as Jojo. 21-year-old Jojo, the youngest of 5 children, was in Bruxelles Bar off Grafton Street. I've been there loads. It's referred to as a rocker bar and has a really good crowd usually. With her, music lover Jojo carried a Sanyo cassette player, something which to this day hasn't been recovered. Unfortunately, Jojo missed the last bus home from Dublin and decided to hitchhike her way back to Kilkenny, about an hour and a half away by car. Jojo had managed to get from Dublin to Kildare and then on to Moon. At 11:37, she used a payphone to call her friend. She told them that a car had just pulled up to near the phone box. Someone fitting Jojo's description was later seen leaning into a car in Castle Dermot 25 minutes later, but there's no way of knowing for sure that it was her. She was never seen again and no trace of Jojo has ever been found. The case was upgraded to murder from missing person, and in 2020 a number of suspects were cleared at this time. Jojo's family raised awareness of the case by contacting the Clintons as well as George Bush, who put pressure on Gardaí, but the investigation remains unsolved to this day. There are 6 similar cases. We don't know that they're connected, but here's the broad strokes. 19-year-old Fiona Sinnott, mother to an 11-month-old baby, went missing in 1988. Eva Brennan, 39, in 1993, left her family home in Rathgar in Dublin, never seen or heard from again. Imelda Keenan, 22, in 1994, on her way to the post office, vanished without a trace. Pregnant Fiona Pender, aged 19, vanished in 1996. Ciara Breen, aged 17, had supposedly snuck out her window at night in 1997, presumably to have some fun, and was never heard from again. Deirdre Jacob, 18, went missing on the 28th of July 1998. She was living in London and studying there, but she came home to Wicklow for the summer. She disappeared just yards from her parents' home as she walked back. This particular case is often said to be the most puzzling, as Jacob was almost home. Passing motorists witnessed Jacob approaching within yards of her parents' driveway, as well as numerous other sightings, but she never made it to her house. No trace has ever been found, and she was never seen again. There was a renewed interest in this case in 2012 when a young woman named Aoife Phelan went missing. She was from Laois and therefore lived in the Vanishing Triangle, so due to this, some officials and skeptics believed that the killer was at large once again, and she was eventually found buried in a shallow grave in the Mourne Mountains, much like Fiona was suspected to have been by her family. A small wooden cross had been found bearing the name Fiona Pender near the Laois Mountains. However, the assailant that was later discovered to be guilty was a 24-year-old man, meaning that they could not have been the original killer. We still don't have any clarity as to what happened to these women. It's possible that their disappearances and commonalities are random, but what are the chances? And if it was one perpetrator, why did he stop all of a sudden, and where did he go? To prison? Most of the people who fit the profile have been eliminated. Maybe he died, or maybe he just stopped, but that's extremely unlikely to be the case. A reward of €10,000 was offered to anyone that could offer key information that would lead to solving these cases. However, this reward still remains unclaimed to this day, and the case remains cold, meaning that these families were never given the answers they deserved, and their loved ones simply vanished without a trace. As a woman, whenever I go to walk somewhere alone, especially late at night, a friend or family member usually says, "Be careful," to which I reply, "How?" I live in the Vanishing Triangle and I fit the profile of the victims. The suggestion that my carefulness might prevent my own disappearance is frankly insulting to the memories of these women. Until we know where they went and by whose hands, nobody should rest easy. Until we speak again, sending you good vibes. Stay safe out there.